Hey everyone, Great Squatch here. Warlock. If you're not new to the game, you probably know what I'm going to say. What is the best build for Warlock? I'll give you some time to think. Is it A, well, B, well, C, well, or D, well? Collect your thoughts, but put it in the comments below what you think is the best. If any of you answered well, then you would be correct. If you are a new light or a noob, you probably don't understand. But for those that have been playing, you'd understand why I am saying well is the only option. And for those new players, you might be like, well, it doesn't start us out on Well of Radiance. But I'm telling you, as soon as you are capable and able to buy Well of Radiance, then do so, right? Forget everything that the game has been telling you about Voidwalker, right? Well of Radiance is where it's at. You want the build or subclass that will get you through any content in the game. That includes PvP, PvE, all the end game of both of them, right? You use well. Now you might be asking, like, why would I say this? Because well is hands down the best super in the game. There is not any raid or dungeon or activity in the game that well isn't usually people's first choice and almost necessary for every activity in the game. And some of you might be scoffing at me, being like, I don't really think so. But really think about it, right? What other super gives you a 25% damage buff, infinite healing for just standing in a circle? And not just to you, but to the rest of your fire team. No other super can do that, right? And some may argue Bubble is a good thing to compare it to, right? But Bubble you cannot shoot out of, and without Helm of the Saint on, you do not gain any type of benefits once you leave the bubble, except weapons of light. So it's very easy to die in it. Well of Radiance basically makes you invincible, so there's really no arguing against it. Some might argue in PvP it might be not as much of a choice, but I would still argue that it's probably the best choice for newer people to just pick and do well with, right? You have a 6 minute and 57 second cooldown on Well of Radiance, and let's look at my intellect. My intellect is 30. That short of a cooldown, and my intellect is very, very low. Like, no other super competes with it. And even with the rest of your subclass, right, it just adds to this fact. So basically the best build is just to build to get your super as often as you can, and basically placing it as much as you can, right? So we'll talk about the abilities. You got Empowering Rift, Healing Rift, and Phoenix Dive. Now the reason why I'd say that this class is their subclass is really good at PvP, right, is you have options like this. You have Healing Rift and Phoenix Dive. Phoenix Dive takes a little bit to learn, but once you learn it, it is so effective at dodging and just insta healing and not having to place a Healing Rift down, and you can kind of be more mobile with Phoenix Dive. Plus they shorten the cooldown of it, so you're going to get it way more often than healing, right? And you have amazing movement options. I would say that Warlocks are kind of the most mobile class in the game, right? Because if you learn how to use Burst Glide, right, and Icarus Dash, right, nobody can compete with you really in speed. Maybe Titans, but Titans are getting a nerf, and Icarus Dash is not getting a nerf, right? You also have a pretty much infinite range melee, also a super high damage melee that applies a bunch of Scorch, right? You have access to all the nades. The nade that I would say to get is Fusion Nades. Fusion Nades are so strong on Warlock, especially if you get a certain chest piece, right? But if you're just looking for regular gameplay, right, Healing Nades are always good. Solar Nades are always good. Those are solid picks. And then what I generally use is Icarus Dash and Touch of Flame, right? Touch of Flame empowers basically all your nades, right? And the nades that are listed under here would be the ones that I would go and pick up because they get quite a big benefit for your grenades, right? Icarus Dash just gives you a dodge while you're in the air, and this is part of the reason why I think they're really good classes, because of the movement. Icarus Dash is just solid. It's not tied to anything like Titan's Shoulder Charge or Hunter's Dodge, right? It's just a separate cooldown all on its own, which might be why it's kind of broken, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just here to tell you a good build for newer players, right? Icarus Dash is strong, and Heat Rises is strong. Heat Rises is stronger in PvP than PvE, right? There's not really many instances in PvE where you want to hang out in the air and just shoot enemies, especially in higher end content, but to each his own. It's basically you can fire while airborne and kind of sit in one spot or kind of float around while shooting, and it's kind of useful useful in PvP, but less useful in PvE. But these are the two that I would say to get at first, right? Like immediately get off of Voidwalker, get Well of Radiance, get at least Healing Rift, Celestial Fire, Fusion Nades, Icarus Dash, Touch of Flame. I would get Solar Grenade, Final Blows, Cure You, right? Because it is super useful, right? You get a kill with the grenade, and curing will remove any negative status effects, and it will immediately start regeneration. So regeneration is your health will start to regen. So, and then Radiant, basically this is just making you and your allies Radiant powered melee attacks. And like I said, this is almost an infinite range melee. So you just throw it out and now you get a 10% damage buff. I think it's 10%, but a 10% damage buff. This works in PvP. Like this is a solid fragment to get. Ember of Char, I think I had this on for discipline, right? Your solar ignition spreads scorch to affected targets. We'll talk about it. Ignites are base. Okay, so here's how scorch and ignite work. Target is singed by destructive solar light. So basically it's just burning them, and it's on a stack system. So if you get to 100 stacks, then they ignite, and ignitions basically blow up in a small radius around. Now there is an aspect to increase this radius and also spread scorch to other targets, right? So that's what I have. So solar ignition spreads scorch to affected target, right? So if one blows up, then it's spreading scorch to the next one, and you can kind of create a chain with that. And then I have defeating scorch targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. This gives me plus 10 recovery, and I basically have this on to gain fire sprites, right? Because on the artifact I have that picking up a fire sprite will make you or give you an armor charge. So that's kind of why I have it. But really, you can't go wrong with any of these aspects. This one is the only one that I would say is kind of necessary, because you kind of want to be throwing your nades out. And if your nade can get a kill, which because of this aspect, your nades are kind of ridiculous. They're like mini rockets, right? Because fusion nades explode twice, right? They're going to be doing as much damage as you shooting a rocket, right? And then you get a kill. Now you're getting healed at the same time. Well, you didn't have to waste your healing rift on it. It's just useful to have, right? And basically you could pick up any fragments you want, right? Another good set of fragments would probably be, let me see if I can find it. You could do eruption, you could do ashes, so you apply more scorch stacks to targets, making it easy to ignite targets. And singeing is pretty good. Get your class ability more often. Ember of Eruption would also be good. Your solar ignitions have increased area of effect, right? You could set it up to just be an ultimate, ignition and scorch god, right? There's a couple builds you could do. You could do complete healing, right? But the main focus of this build is getting Well of Radiance, right? That's why I chose Fusion Nades and Touch of Flame. Really, anything else is just an addition to it, but it doesn't really matter. The main focus of this build is getting Well of Radiance as much as possible. For PvP, like I said, you'd want your intellect to be way higher, at least in 70 range, right? So that you get your super really often. But for PvE, I have it down here, right? Because it doesn't really take that long to get your super in PvE. It's pretty much a dead stat PvE. But what I run to get my super in the first place, right? You'd be wanting to run Ashes to Assets, right? This is definitely one you'd want to run. Throwing your nade and exploding enemies with your nade, and because they're powered up grenades, you probably will kill them. And this will just generate more super energy on grenade kills. Also solar siphons, so your final blows create an orbit power. I have grenade kickstart, 2 grenade kickstart mods on, so if I do have any armor charge and I throw a nade, just natural things that I'm doing while I'm playing the game, that I will get more grenade energy back, get a kill with the grenade, then you're creating orbs with the grenade, so feeding into that super Phoenix protocol, right? Kills and assist you make while standing in your Well of Radiance return super energy. And I'm pretty sure this can restore up to 40% of your super, right? So cutting down on like 40% of the cooldown of your super, that's a pretty big thing, right? In PvE, that's why I said really all you have to really worry about is the initial cost of the super, and then you could cut this cooldown by like 4%. I don't know if that's a direct like how you calculate it, but you get the idea. You're going to be cutting down on your super quite a bit, and especially if you have a friend or a teammate that is running a similar build to you that's all about getting wells. Like you're going to be getting wells constant. When your well's out, he places his well, and then when his well's out, you probably have your well again, right? Because this counts as other people's wells. So something to think about, right? The boots really don't matter, right? You could throw on some like solar weapon surges or whatever type of weapon you're using, kind of beef up your damage, but it really doesn't matter. You're inside of a well, you're getting a 25% damage boost anyways. So mainly what I have is recuperation, intervention. So if I'm picking up orbs, which I'm going to be creating, then I'm going to be getting more grenade energy, and then healing also when I pick it up. I always put a holster mod on because it's so annoying, like especially means machine guns are kind of meta. Like it's annoying to swap back to your machine gun and it be almost empty, and then you have to spend most of that time reloading it, right? This just, you know, reloads it over time, right? Not something you don't have to think about, right? And like I said in the last video, and if you haven't seen that, there's a little card in the corner. But Reaper, after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power. This is useful. You just keep using your Rift or Phoenix Dive, whatever you're using, and you will be continually getting an orb of power. And like I said in the last video, this really doesn't have a timer. After you use your class ability, you basically have an infinite amount of time to kill something and create an orb of power, right? Pretty much everybody should be using this, right? And I'm telling you now because it's just a free orb without doing anything. If you're using your class ability at all, you're going to be getting orbs. And then when also to benefit your class ability, I have Bomber on. So when you use your class ability, you're going to be gaining grenade energy and shortening that cooldown. Now for weapons, right? For me, I would do something like this, right? And all these are obtainable. I think they're obtainable free to play. If Gallahorn is not obtainable free to play, let me know in the comments. But as far as I'm aware, 30th anniversary was made free. But if it's not, you could get something like Hezen's Vengeance. Obviously, this is the adept version, so but you could do the normal Vault of Glass to get it, or you could even just play Iron Banner and get Roar of the Bear, right? So these are all free to play things, so it's not like you're worried. And like I said before, all these are free to play. I think Phoenix Protocol is free to play. If I am wrong, then you could always swap it out for Starfire Protocol. And if you're seeing this in next season, Chromatic Fire is going to be broken as hell. I am telling you, it is going to be a super good exotic to use, right? But as far as I know, Phoenix Protocol is a free to play exotic, so it would be worth your time to get it. So as far as I know, all these are free to play. Gallahorn might be a little, I don't know, but probably is, right? This is free to play too, and you can get incandescent on it, but that is the main perk that I'm going to be looking at, right? Is this incandescent perk. This is a free to play craftable weapon. All you have to do is the first mission of the Witch Queen campaign, the quest to get this, which costs 1 red border, which I think they give you. So this isn't a weapon that is unobtainable, right? What incandescent does is defeating targets spreads basically spreads scorch to nearby targets. This is an awesome perk, right? And if you enhance it, it's longer lasting, so more scorch stacks, right? In conjunction with our subclass, we're going to be causing ignitions or causing scorch, right? And you can change your subclass up to meet that if you want that, but just having scorch on targets helps clearing ads much easier, and it's just a solid weapon. You know, you could do a lot of things with this gun, especially being auto rifles just got buffed. They're doing better in the sandbox now, so you can use it. It has a little bit of range, so you're not stuck in the bat, you know, not doing anything, right? And this plays into Solar Siphon, so you're going to be creating orbs while getting kills with this. Riptide, like I said in the last video, this is just a solid fusion rifle. If you can get one with Chill Clip, right? This is obtainable in the Crucible playlist from Shaxx. You can focus them, so it is not that hard to obtain a decent Riptide. Roar the Bear, you might have to wait around for Iron Banner to come back unless you already have one. Hezen's Vengeance is from the Vault of Glass, so it is possible to get it. You might have to wait till if you want to grind it out, get it, then you might have to wait till Vault of Glass is the featured raid for the week, but it is a solid rocket launcher. There are also things like Two-Tailed Fox. I think it's part of the world loot pool, and if not, it's from the exotic kiosk, so you can buy it. I think it's a world drop, being that rocket launchers are meta, right? You could really use any rocket launcher, right? You got Hezen's Vengeance, Royal Entry, the Hothead. I think Code Dwello is in Dares of Eternity, right? You can go to the moon and get these. I don't think they require Shadowkeep to participate in whatever it's called, the public activity on the moon. And for machine guns, right? If Iron Banner comes around, you got Archon's Thunder. If you do have duality, but not necessary. Whenever the Dawning comes around, Avalanche is always good. You got Unwavering Duty from Trials, right? Whenever you could go and focus this. You have Circular Logic. Like I said, any machine gun kind of works. Oh, Chain of Command, that was the one I was looking for. This is free from the exotic kiosk. You go down to the legacy, I think it's weapons or whatever, and you can buy this one. It has osmosis on it, so it will work with your subclass, right? And it's a solid machine gun. It's part of one of the better archetypes. Like, this is just a solid machine gun. And the reason why I'm telling you these two is because it's really up to preference and what you're doing, because rocket launchers and machine guns are kind of meta right now, or not kind of, they are meta right now. So like, you could pair it with these two weapons and then just swap your heavy out to what you need, and it's really his preference. You don't have to take my word for it. It's really just, it's up to you guys. You know, if you have someone just like spamming supers with you, you will will almost always have your super. There will almost never be an instance where you don't have it. We'll test it out in this one. See if I can get a better representation of it. Look, I have half of my super back, and I just cast it. I got my super back. Like, I wasn't joking. So as you can see, it's really easy to get this build to live, right? You just have to get kills while you're in your super. And that's why I'm saying this is a simple build for PvE, for Warlocks. You could use this to get your super really fast, not have to worry about it that much, right? And for PvP, the only things that I would change, right, you could throw Wither Horde on, or if you got a shotgun like Ragnall D, this is a free to play. You get it, it's a world drop, you can craft it, right? Easy to get. You just get a shotgun, you could use Amit or any weapon you really like. That's what I'm saying for PvP, right? And really the only things that I would swap out is like throw this on, you throw Transversive Steps on. Transversive Steps are also free to play exotic, right? They are really good, really solid, especially with the Ophidian Aspects nerfs. Like, these are really good exotic that you can use as new light players, and it buffs your sprint and reloads all your weapons that you're holding, right? Yeah, reloads the weapon that you're holding while you're sprinting, right? And that's really all I would change, except I would increase your intellect to be as much as possible. Your intellect and your recovery for PvP, that's really the only things that I would change as a new light. And you're not really thinking about anything, you're just going to be getting your well extremely fast. You're going to be able to move around the map faster, right? Really, these two builds, there's not much thought process that goes into them. That's why I think I put these are simple builds for Warlock, and you can pretty much dominate. And if there is something that isn't accessible, then let me know. There's really nothing that I've talked about that can't be accessible to new lights and somebody just trying out the game. So, you know, if you hung around this long, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to see some builds on Hunter, if you're a new light player and you're on Hunter and you're like, oh shoot, a Warlock video, I don't care about a Warlock, there'll be a tag. There should have been a tag halfway through this too. So again, thank you for hanging around.